Some of y'all know that my freshman year of high school, I came into it in love with my first girlfriend. Yeah, if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, it was like Kid, where it's getting pretty serious to me and that. So, we were talking about marriage and, all that stuff, whatever, the future of the kid, like where we live, everything like that. But long story short, we broke up, and I said last week, she broke up with me, and she broke up with me, and it broke my heart. And the problem was that I had made her my everything. I was obsessed with her. I had reoriented my life around her in every imaginable way. And I changed myself a lot for her, if I'm being honest. Like, if she was listening to country music, I was listening to country music. Like Jason Aldean and Brad Paisley and stuff like that. I changed my interests for her. Like, if she was into wakeboarding, which she was, I was into wakeboarding, which I'm no good at. I'm too dang tall for that junk, y'all. Like, I don't have, first of all, the upper body strength, and like gravity just doesn't work. Like, it's better to be shorter, you know what I'm saying? And if that wakeboard like catches a lip or something, it's just like, I have a long way down before I slap the water. It's like, pah! And, they say it's just as bad as hitting concrete. So really, I've basically just been hitting concrete for this chick. I changed my clothes, the things that I would wear. She told me one time I looked good in green. She's like, it matches your eyes, which are blue. And I'm just kidding. She didn't look into them very much, but I know. Her name? That was Roxanne. I'm just kidding. And I wasn't a Chad, dude, I swear, but I bought a bunch of green shirts. I was like, she likes me in green. I don't even like green, man. I don't own one green thing, like, right now. Except for the Crossover Weekend shirt last year, because that shirt slaps. Anybody wearing it tonight? Yeah! Prove it! All right, that's what's up. Thank you. I wear mine all the time, too. But whenever the relationship ended, needless to say, I was destroyed because I had made her my everything. I remember dark room, loud tunes, looking to make a vow soon. No, I'm just kidding. But I was in a dark room. I would listen to music for just days on end. I was devastated. I would cry. I remember journaling a lot. I remember even thinking about self-harm. And what made it worse was that she seemed to move on really quickly. Like, I would see her on social media talking to other dudes, posting pictures with other dudes, and then it just twisted the knife that was in my soul, especially since I looked at the other dudes and I was like, I'm like 10 times better looking than that guy. And I know, right? Which is hard to do. But anyway, it made it so much worse. And some of us in this room, we know what that's like. Like, we know what that feeling is like. We've experienced it. Some of us have a friend who has experienced it. Some of us have not experienced that feeling yet. But obsession isn't only in relationships. You could say, Ren, like, I've never even had a boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, this doesn't apply to me. It's not going to apply to me for a long time. Like, you can go all in on somebody, on also something, right? Like, it could be a phone or a piece of tech. It could be a YouTuber or an online personality. It could be a sport, and this sport is completely consuming your life, and you have just neglected to acknowledge any other thing besides this sport. You're pushing people away because of this sport. It could be gaming online. There's a bunch of different things. We're just defining obsession tonight like this, and we're going to be talking about relationships because it's a relationship series, but plug in whatever it might be for you. But it's when something or someone takes an unhealthy amount of your time and of your thoughts. When it's sabotaging and compromising other relationships that you have, when your grades start to suffer, when people are looking at you like, you've changed, bro, and it's not good, bro. And it's because of this obsession. It could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be an activity. What is it for you? Which is the next question that we have to ask ourselves tonight. What or who am I, or both, obsessed with? What am I obsessed with? Someone put it earlier, like, if it were to cease to exist tomorrow, would it absolutely wreck your life? Would you say, my world is over because this thing This person is gone. They don't like me anymore. None of these things that I've mentioned, like sports and relationships, boyfriends, girlfriends, YouTube, social media and phones, etc., none of them are bad things in and of themselves, but it's when they can start to consume you and start to dictate your life and pull you away from good things or people, like it was read earlier in 1 Corinthians 6:12. It said, or like I guess whenever the things whenever it goes away, it can wreck you, because it says this. Paul wrote this to the Corinthians. He says, I have the right to do anything, which is true. Like, you can go punch your grandma in the face, like, no problem. Whack! And, just take her out. But it says, not everything is beneficial. Like, that wouldn't be a good idea, right? Like, you can do anything, but not everything's a good idea. I have the right to do anything, he says, but I will not be mastered by anything. Like, there's this importance. God knew whenever he spoke through Paul that there was an importance to not be mastered, controlled, dictated by anything. And here's the reason why. It's because God knew and Paul knew this truth. When you make someone or something your everything, you can lose everything. When you make someone your everything, you can lose everything. If you put all your, whatever the phrase is, like your marbles in that basket, or something like that. I don't know. Eggs? What is it? If you fill your basket up, anyway. Look, people will always let you down. Something can always happen. There's only one creator and sustainer of life. There's only one perfectly consistent one, and it's Jesus. He's never going to let you down. He's the only one worth putting everything into, yet we put everything into so many different things that are never really going to gratify our ultimate need for the Savior, for the Creator, for God the Father. And there's no more terrible place to be than when you feel like you've lost everything. It's the worst, and I know it from personal experience. Paul, he also wrote this book called Ephesians, which if you want to turn there now or get there in YouVersion or whatever, it's in Ephesians, and a lot of Paul's letters, which make up the majority of the New Testament, were, like I just said, letters to people, but Ephesians was probably not. It was more like a public speech, kind of like the I have a dream speech, and someone just recorded it right there on the spot, so it's to the people in Ephesus, and it's in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15. And you gotta keep this in context and remember at the time there was no dating culture at all. Like, we're sitting here talking about dating, and it's like, what did Paul know about dating though? For real, he didn't have like these dating apps, like Christian Tingle. Oh, is it? Never mind. Mingle, right? Oh gosh. We turn on the heat. Woo! There was no dating sites. There was no friend zone. There was no pornography at the time. There was no dating culture at all, to be honest. And he says this, and you're like, well, it can't really be applied, but yes, it can. Check it out. 5:15, be very careful then, says Paul, how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. We're like, thanks, Paul. Basically, that just says, don't be an idiot, right? Which I already know not to be an idiot, but I still kind of am sometimes. Anybody else with me? That's like that episode of SpongeBob. He's like, I'm ugly and I'm proud. That's how I feel right now sometimes. Like, but everyone's like, yeah, that. Amen. That'll preach. That'll preach. But these words from Paul are a warning. These words from Paul are a warning. Don't be unwise. Be wise when it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships in general, when it comes to anything. When it comes to anything that you could potentially become obsessed with. And remember the question we asked? What are you obsessed with? Are you wise with it? Or are you unwise with it? It could be money. It could be likes, followers, subscribers. Click the button below. We're going to throw out some examples just to set the tone. Taking a healthy interest in something or someone would be wise, and this carries all the way through into marriage. Like, you can idolize your spouse, and it could become an unhealthy obsession. just as well. You could box everybody else out. That wouldn't be wise. So an obsession would be unwise, interest is wise. Here's an example. If you follow somebody on Instagram, that's an interest and is therefore wise. If you like or comment on every single post that they have ever created since the beginning of existence, that is obsession. If you say, hey, when you see somebody in the hall, that's an interest, you're probably good to go. If you go out of your way and become tardy and take the long way to class just in the hopes that you will catch a whiff of her perfume, you're a creep, and that's an obsession. If you go out of your way, you take the long way to class, and you become tardy just in the hopes that you'll see her. You're not going to talk, you're just going to see her. And then you do. And she's talking to Chad! Then that's just sad. Heartbroken, devastation, plummet, despair. Don't do it. In the next verse, Paul says this is Ephesians 5, still verse 16. He says, make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. And I'm not talking about like zombie apocalypse evil, but I'm just talking about evil as in just like plain not good, like obsessing over a person. It isn't just a risk. Like it's not just like, what if you lose that person? Like that person could move, that person could die, something could happen. Or what, your mom could take away your Xbox. Your stepdad could ground you from your phone. Like you can have these things that you're obsessed with and they could just cease to exist or get taken away and like your whole world could crumble. It's not just about the risk. I'm talking about just like a good use of your time. Is like to obsess over these things and waste your entire day with them and just miss everything else that's going on. That's just not smart. It's not a good use of your time. It's unwise. So I'm going to leave us with 3 pro tips when it comes to dating and the idea of dating if you're considering it. And then we'll be done. We'll be done. So here we go. And remember, they can be applied to any potential obsession or person that you could be sort of ignorantly invested in. So number 1 is this: get a life. Just get a life. This sounds harsh, but like seriously though, have an actual life. Like don't make your life that person. Don't make your life that thing, because whenever you do that, remember, like that's a lot of pressure to put on another human being. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that. And if and when something does happen, you have to be prepared to continue to exist apart. The only one who's never going to leave or forsake you, I think y'all know this, is Jesus. So it's pretty safe to make him your everything, for him to be at the center of your life. But everything else, be careful. Number 2, don't get tunnel vision. Don't get tunnel vision. There's still a world outside of that person or that thing. Don't ditch these people who have been around all that time, who have loved you and remained honest and true to you, and who have supported you through thick and thin. Don't just become so laser focused that you ditch them out. Don't spend 46 hours playing the newest release of that game and all your friends are texting you, calling you, being like, let's hang out, and you are just like locked into this, saying that, nah, this is more important than you, a human who loves me. Than your family of believers here. These obsessions can start to, like, there's some people, man, we have other things going on and we don't even come to Legacy for 6-8 months at a time. Or we miss church. Keep being you. If you catch yourself and you're not you and people are looking at you and they're saying you're not the same, think about it. If a lot of people who love and trust you are saying that, get out. Number 3, this is it. Dating won't complete you. This is like the saddest, most depressing list of all time. I'm just trying to be honest and real with you guys. I'm trying to help y'all out for your futures. I wish someone would have told me these things. You don't need another person to make you a whole person. You are already complete in Jesus Christ. Imagine, like I mentioned, the pressure that puts on somebody else to say, you complete me. You're my missing puzzle piece. You are the yin to my yang. I don't know what I would just die without you. Dang. I'm trapped. I don't want someone to put that on me. There's only one person who can handle that amount of weight and that amount of pressure, and it's Jesus. Put it on him. He can take it. Don't put it on somebody else. Don't put it on Xbox. Don't put it on YouTube. If you can remember and apply these 3 things, keeping Jesus first in your life, then I promise you'll be okay no matter what. Because you know why? You'll have a life. It'll be okay in the worst case scenario. Number 2, you won't have tunnel vision. You'll still be aware that your world is not over. Life hasn't ended. You have a life outside of the person or the thing. Number 3, you are complete. You're complete because you're a son or you're a daughter of Jesus, the creator and sustainer of the universe, who loves you and died for you, who gave himself up for you when you didn't deserve it. I'm not saying you won't ever experience pain, but you will have the tools to handle it when pain comes.